Thank you, Joe. Humans and plants belong together in their created glory, in the great tragedy, and in their salvation. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Sunday service here at Brighton. My name is Jennifer, I'm the minister here. And for those of you that are new to our service this morning, a really warm and friendly welcome to you, whether you're here in person or whether you're joining us online. But also a warm welcome to all of us, whether we're here for years gone by or just dropping in. Our service today offers us the opportunity to think about plants. It's the International Day of Plant Health. This was established 3 years ago by the United Nations. And the focus after a week of looking at plant health generally is their well-being. Healthy plants constitute the foundation for all the life on Earth, as well as our ecosystems, our food security. 80% of our food and 98% of the oxygen we breathe comes from plants. I didn't know this stuff, I looked it up, but anyway, I was quite awe-inspired when I read that. So it's really important that we protect plant health, look after them, appreciate them, enjoy them. So let's begin our service today by lighting our chalice, which is a sign of our free religious faith, but it also brings a light into this church, a light into our hearts, and also a light into the greater community. Spark of the Spirit cupped in the earth's embrace, light of love alive in all creation. As we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life, to the Mother Earth, and to all that grows on it, in it, and under its beauty. Let us just spend a moment in prayer together. When I use the word God, I invite you to use that in any way that you wish, whatever that means to you. God of light and love, mystery of the divine, we gather ourselves in this sacred space, in the heart of our busy city. Let us release our worries, our thoughts, our plans, and our fears for the next hour, and bring ourselves into something more sacred than we could ever imagine. Let us have our hearts opened by nature's glorious wonder and be reminded of our responsibility of a guardianship of Gaia, the Mother Earth. Let us give thanks for all that we have, all that we are, and all that we bring here and now to this space. And blessed be. There was a message that went out in the email in the middle of the week for inviting you to bring a plant or a flower or a seedling today. Do not worry if that has completely slipped your mind, or you didn't even read an email. If you didn't get an email, speak to me, because that's more concerning. There are a few little bits of greenery in the back, or you can take a piece out of the front here. And as we sing our first hymn, number 13, Flowers to the Altar, I invite you to bring whatever you have And if you haven't, you just bring your blessing of flowers to the altar and pop them in the little vase at the front. So yeah, you are multitasking already. Sunday morning, 11:10, singing, flowers. Just go with it in the best way that you can. So we sing together number 13, Flowers to the Altar in the Bible Book. To all the ideals we Wow. We should do that more often. It's always a bit tricky when you start new things and play new hymns, and yeah, I understand. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for just doing it. Just bring the flowers before we sing. I don't. And let's just take a moment to breathe that beauty in. It's really extraordinary. Our first reading this morning is called Spirit Stories, and it's called Terence the Gardener. Terence was working in the garden. He was always working in the garden. He'd been working in the garden since he could remember, since maybe he was born, he guessed, or at least since he was old enough to carry a hoe and make a straight furrow. He knew he had to get the garden to grow. If you watched him work, you'd see him look up every few minutes to the corner window of the great house just across the street. The gardener there sat, always looking down on him, making sure he was doing things right. Terence couldn't see the gardener's face, but he knew the gardener was a mean person. They seemed to have a permanent scowl on their face. Occasionally, Terence would look up to the window and he thought that the gardener was looking back at him. It would basically make him work even harder. There was also a man who kept coming by the garden and saying, "Terence, can I help you?" Terence didn't know who the man was, didn't even know his name. And he always said, no, thanks, I'm fine. His answer was always no. Sometimes he was so fixated on the gardener that when the man came, he didn't even realize he was speaking to him. One morning, Terence was counting out some seeds. He was making the furrows and making sure the soil was just right. He really did his best, day after day, week after week. He really thought, if I work hard enough, I can make these plants grow. There was some sign of hope this one morning. He saw some of the buds pushing through the soil. They looked strong, but they hadn't come through in perfect lines. He had sowed them in perfect lines. At that very moment, Terence heard a rumbling. It was like a bear's hungry stomach. "Oh no," he said. He could hear it, he could smell it, he could feel it. And suddenly there was a pitter-patter and then sounds of clapping. Soon the skies were grey, the storm came, and the thunder was so intense, Terence found himself huddling in the corner of a garden under a large bush. By the time the skies cleared and the afternoon sun broke through, the garden was a wreck. Terence surveyed the damage, unable to form thoughts or words. He fell to the ground in a clump. "It's ruined!" There was a knock on the garden gate. Terence, can I come in? Can I help you?" That man, he always showed up at these times. But Terence, with no energy to protest, found himself doing something he'd never done. He walked over to the garden fence, flipped the latch, and invited the man in. Terence, his face buried in his hands, saw the man's shoes. He didn't lift his head. The man said, "Why are you so upset?" "Upset? Take a look around. It's ruined. All my best efforts, ruined, failure again." "Just the gardener will be so upset. He'll be angry. The gardener," the man said, perplexed. "What gardener?" "The gardener. He's up there. Look, in the house. Look." The man looked to where Terence was pointing. "The gardener," the man said. "Terence, that's not a gardener." For the first time, Terence realized that the man knew his name. He had never noticed it before. "What do you mean that's not a gardener?" Terence insisted. "Of course that's the gardener." "No, it's not the gardener. Terence, my friend, that is an old scarecrow. Someone just left it there, propped it up by the window. It's not a gardener. The gardener is not who you thought he was." "But wait, why?" Terence was confused. Didn't take much to confuse Terence, but he was really confused in this moment, and he couldn't hide his confusion. "Well, if he's not the gardener, then who are you?" Terence asked. The man lifted his head to the side as if the answer were obvious. "I'm the gardener, Terence. I'm the gardener." Terence had no words. His mouth fell open, but no sound fell out of it. And you're not mad," Terence said. Mad? The man laughed. No, I'm not mad. I'm just glad that you let me in. That's all. Here, take my hand. Terence reached out and placed his hands in the man's hands. He saw scars on the man's hands and wrists, like he had worked long hours in the hot sun. But before a thought could form, Terence's eyes opened wide. Through his hands, a warmth was flowing like fire. It was power, pure energy. And then Terence felt the warmth of energy coming up through the ground. He kept his eyes fixed on the gardener. All around, the plants began to spring back to life. Flowers budded and bloomed. Things burst forth in their colours. The garden turned rich. But it turned rich in a higgledy-piggledy way. The gardener said to Terence, "We're going to give this fruit and these vegetables and these flowers away." "You don't want to keep them for yourself?" asked Terence. The gardener laughed. "I'm always working to bring up good fruit, and the joy's not in keeping it. It's in seeing the looks on people's faces when they taste it and they share it. Trust me, Terence, you're going to love it." The gardener smiled at Terence and then turned his eyes to the ground. Reaching his hand into the dirt, carving out a hole, Terence did the same. He felt something he had never felt before, touching soil, the warmth of the earth, the fluid energy of the ground yielding to his fingers. He felt promise and hope. He felt the worth of a day's good labour and the peace of knowing what he was working for. And beneath it all, the indescribable joy of working not alone, but working with. He was the gardener. I'll leave that for you. We sing again our hymn number 33, Do You Hear? Joe's going to play it through once and then we'll sing it together. I'm ready, Joe. Along with the story of the Good Samaritan, the parable of the sower is probably one of the most popular. The seeds fall on 4 different soils: the edge of a road, stone, thorns, and good soil. The result, we may know, doesn't go well for 3 out of the 4. Only the good soil produced a good crop. In the parable, the sower is Jesus, the seed is the word, and the soil would be those who receive the word. But maybe for us as Unitarians, there's a slightly different perspective to learn. After all, we are Unitarians. The title, The Parable of the Good Sower, suggests it's all about the sower, when in fact, it's actually all about the soil. Those gardeners amongst you, and I know there are many, will attest that it's what the environment you put the plants in that matters, not necessarily how the plants are when they begin their journey. I hope I'm not the only person who visits a garden centre and goes straight to the little trolley that has the ones that are looking a lot slightly on their last legs. I call them the lost souls. They're often either being given away or they have a 50p sticker on them. I was there yesterday. Yeah, I was there yesterday. There's sometimes plants that are out of season. They've grown a bit wonky. They're not so blousy. Or sometimes they look almost dead. Occasionally, it's worth just taking them for the pots that they come in. Do we have that inner feeling of, I can rescue you, I can save you, I can nurse you back to health? Or it may be the rest of the plants in the garden centre are far too expensive. Either way, they sort of attract some of us. We give these lost souls a little home, maybe a prune, maybe place them in an environment with rich nutrients, warm light and water. And sometimes the most miraculous things happen. Not always. I do have a lot of those plots that are I haven't brought them back to life. But sometimes you can. We are the guardians of this incredible, abundant, beautiful planet. We are the sower's assistant. If we think about this church, we provide the soil, a place where people can come and be nurtured and grow spiritually. We're all part of it. We're all part of this community garden. There is enough space here for us to reflect on our spiritual path, learn new teachings, share our experiences. And the soil becomes more richer by that. And yet sometimes the busyness of life gets in the way. Sometimes we just grab the first thing that we walk to when we get in the garden centre. This is really bluesy and blousy and wondrous, and you get attracted to them like a magnet. We don't maybe think about the work that is needed to look after them. And then we don't tend to the environment that they need to grow in. They become parched and hungry. And maybe they don't have enough room to put their roots. It's a bit like being at church. We come on a Sunday, we get filled, and off we go into the world of wonder, especially at the moment. The world of wonder is just so wonderful and so full and overflowing with the festival and the sunshine, and it's just... But if we forget to water ourselves, and we get parched and hungry, and parts of our spiritual life start to die. I have a friend who lives part of their life in Texas. She tries to keep a flower garden going. I've never been, but the images that she shows me, it's pretty scorching and unrelentless. She waters the plants. She takes a bit of Englishness out to Texas. Petunias, chrysanthemums, marigolds, all those incredible, traditional English plants. And she's like, yes, I'm going to make them grow in Texas. And they all look amazing, she says. And then, if you miss a few days, the plants start to show it. They become stressed and neglected. Their leaves start to shrivel, and the flowers begin to fall from their dropping stems. She says it's like a process of trying to let go. She does her best when she's in Texas, knowing fully well that a few days after she's left and got home, the garden will be finished. Why do you do it? I said. She said, I like to have a piece of home in Texas. I like to feel filled with hope that this time it will be different. And just by tending those plants in an arid desert-like landscape reminds me that there is hope. Respond well to alternative periods of drought and drenching. I don't think we do either, to be fair. If you're anything like me, you have your water bottle with full intention in the morning and you get to the middle of the afternoon and you're like, I should have drunk one of those and refilled it by now. It's a consistency. Gardening is a consistency, the same as a spiritual practice is a consistency. We share a spiritual practice, myself and this person who lives in Texas, and we go out every morning, regardless of the weather, to sort of commune with the God of our understanding through nature. Maybe some of when I've missed that. The demands of the day were pressing, the rain. It's hard to believe that it's like this, but yeah, that endless rain. The results may be subtle, but if we're not fed and watered and pruned, little, that etches away at our own growth. So let's come to a time of reflection, period. If you're new in the church, we normally have a time in the service where we just have a little bit of quiet. We maybe listen to something and just reflect on the words that we've heard. I was going to read you something, but I'm actually not going to do that. I'm just going to invite you to bring into your consciousness the God of your understanding, the mystery, the nature. If that's too confusing, focus on one of these beauties in front of you. And I invite you just to take a few minutes just to think about the plants that are around and in your life, whether they're in your garden, on the shelf at home, whether they are gardens that you pass on your way to work, maybe in the local parks, and just really embody the beauty of them. whether they're big and blousy or they are so-called weeds, whatever they are. Just be reminded what they bring you. So let's just take a few minutes in reflection. Divine Spirit, God of all love, remind us to open our eyes to the beauty around us, to the order and the disorder of nature, to the large and the small, the weak and the strong. Guide our spiritual roots into the richness of the soil of our consciousness. Direct us to the places where we can be fed and where we can thrive. Open our minds and our eyes to the divine ideas and greater possibilities. And show us how we journey with nature rather than against it. Amen, and blessed be. Stuart, could you open the windows? When I came to start my ministry here, there was one plant. Amazingly, in its tenacity, it is still hanging on. I'm looking at it right now. I promise, I'm going to take it home and I'm going to repot it and feed it. And I hope then that it will bloom, grow strong. But it's been moved around the church in the year that I've been here. And I found it quite odd. It's like, oh, I only got one plant in the church. What's that all about? And then we went through a stage of having dried plants. And then we also went through a stage of having these amazing displays of plastic plants. And then we have flowers that often come via the lunchtime concert. But it got me thinking. It was like, well, why don't we have any? Are we frightened that we're not going to be able to look after them? Are they going to die? So today, as some of you know me quite well, I'm always up for an experiment in our services, and today is no exception. So I know some of you have brought some little plants. Thank you so much for them. At the back of the church, there's four little troughs with earth in, and there's a whole plethora of plants. Now, for some of you, the thought of getting your hands in the dirt may feel like, I'm not doing that. Don't worry, you don't have to do it. We're going to show you something very beautiful on the screen, and you can look at that. I hope that there are some of you here who are like, yeah, I'll get my hands in the dirt. And my invitation is that we plant up 4 of these troughs, and they're going to go on the little plinths by the windows. We're going to leave 2 free for live living flowers that come into our church weekly. Now, it's not lost on me that I promise you I will do my best to look after them to the best of my ability. So I will take overall responsibility. But I think the thing about them is that I hope that those of you here today, whether you put your hands in the earth or don't, that you've been part of creating something new here. Some of them will survive, some of them will thrive, some of them will take over one of the pots because that's who they are. And some of them will be, I've got no space. Some of them may need a bit of encouragement. Some of them won't make it. But we do have the capacity here to give them love and nourishment. And my hope is that when you come back into church week after week, or if you come back 6 months after, that some of them will still be living and some of them will still be thriving. And some of them may not look anything like what they look like today. So in the next few minutes, Stuart has miraculously moved somewhere else, which is great. So those of you who don't want to get involved, it's fine. We're going to show you something on the screen, which is actually quite beautiful. It's to music. And anyway, you can have a look. It shows plants speeded up in time. But I really hope that there are some of you who are going to be willing to go to the back and help each other. If you've never planted anything before, team up with somebody who has. I'll come and help you. And we're just going to put the plants in the trough and we're going to give them a little blessing and send them on their way. So, Stuart, would you be willing to press play? And those of you who are willing to come and garden at the back of the church, please do so. Yeah, you can do wash hands or you can wipe your face with the dirt if you like. Everyone. Hopefully some of you have got some seriously good dirt on your hands now. Lovely. And here we have our new community. We have grown. It's like getting new members, isn't it? It's like, whoop, got new members. And a tiny dandelion. Absolutely. I will bring more soil. Somebody was a little bit concerned. I didn't bring enough soil. I'm sorry about that. So I will bring more soil and make sure they're bedded in properly, and we'll get drainage sorted out. But thank you. Thank you so much. It was so lovely to see you just getting in there and helping each other. So may they all be blessed, and may they grow well, and may we revisit them in 6 months' time and see how they're doing. So we're coming to the end. I mean, I won't as in revisit them 6 months' time and not do anything in between. As in a service, we may come and revisit them in 6 months' time. Yeah. I promise, I'll look after them. So I'm going to leave you with this. It's a prayer for, it's actually a prayer for Earth Day, but I think that it's quite poignant for today. Infinite Spirit, sometimes called Grandfather and Grandmother, Father Sky, Earth Mother and Creator, we have gathered here to praise your creation, to honor the beauty and the glory of this earth, to remind ourselves of our place in the universe. We're not the center or the focus, but a humble and balanced place, where every step we take becomes a prayer, where every word we say makes harmony with the vast vibrating cosmos, and where we know we are singing the song of life. Every seed, every leaf, every tree, every flower, they're all a living prayer. Without our brothers and sisters of the plant and animal kingdom, the human family would end. So we want to bless them as they bless us. Divine Spirit, God of all, let us remember that it is not how we talk, but how we walk on this precious earth. When we say that we love plants, let us honor them by living lightly on this earth. Remind us that we are here for a nanosecond, but let that nanosecond count for something. Hear us, empower us, help us to give thanks for the mystery of it all. We give thanks for this beautiful world that we live and inhabit. May it be so. We sing our last hymn together this morning, which is 147. Joe, what is it called? Brilliant. Spirit of earth, root, tree, and something. Joe will play the first. Joe will just play the first verse, not the chorus. Yeah, and then we'll sing. Could you pause in between each verse so we get a time to have a little breath and then start? Okay, thank you. 147. Spirit of nature, healing, Spirit of love, expand in me. Spirit of life, breathe deeply in me. Inspire me, living energy. Spirit of love, softly drawn in. My heart, listen my faith, sing of compassion, help me to fill me with love. Spirit healing and free, Spirit of love expanding in me, Spirit of life, breathe deeply in me. Inspire me with living energy. Spirit of life, you are my soul. Sing in my soul, like I found. Burden and night, keep me from you fill me with energy. Spirit of nature, healing and free. Spirit of love, expanding in me. Spirit of life, breathe deeply in me. Inspire me with living energy. After the blessing, Joe will play us a little bit of music just to end our service today, during which time the offertory will be taken. There's an opportunity either to put, that's absolutely fine. We're just glad that you're here. But the offertory is in cash, and there's also a machine, a sum up machine, to make a donation after the service. This is a big church, and it takes a lot to keep it going. So anything that you can give, we appreciate. After the service, we'll have tea and coffee, and today we're doing another experiment. And today's experiment is all of our biscuits are vegan. So have a taste, see what you think. All the milk is plant-based. We're going to try this and do this once a month as part of our awareness and looking after our world. There's also a donation jar. We've made a decision to make our yearly sort of contribution via making a donation to tea and coffee to Sussex Night Stop. If anybody wants to know more about that, please come and see me after the service. So let us just come together and finish with a prayer. Greater good to whom we belong, let us remember that we are loved and needed, however we are. Whether we are rough and overgrown in some places, stunted and pinched in others, help us make the spaces we inhabit. Help us tend the gardens and the neighborhoods that we live in. Help them to be places of giving. Help us to let go in the autumn, learn in the winter, and try again with exuberance in the spring and the summer. May we go into our goodness together. Amen.